Hey guys, tonight we step into a quiet room inside your own mind. Imagine settling into a cozy chair, the soft hum of a fan brushing past your ears, and your thoughts slowing down like the last drops of rain fading from a calm lake. You probably won't survive this without feeling a little restless, because let's face it, you're used to the mind buzzing like a phone on 3% battery scrambling for a charger. But tonight, you're invited to try something different. Be calm and see what you truly deserve. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'm curious where in the world you're tuning in from as we dive deep. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You start by quieting your mind. Not easy. I know your thoughts start like fireflies on a summer night, refusing to settle. But the magic lies in embracing stillness. When you calm the mental chatter, the world shifts. Colors become sharper, sounds more distinct, and your inner voice clearer. This isn't just some new age fluff. Neuroscientists have shown that quieting your brain activity strengthens your focus and emotional resilience. Historically, Buddhist monks in ancient India practiced deep meditation to achieve exactly this, an unshakable calm that illuminated their path. Interestingly, historians still argue whether the Buddha's first students entered a trance state through breath control or a more spontaneous realization of stillness. And then there's the quirky tidbit that some monks used to meditate for days, wearing uncomfortable garb like heavy robes in sweltering heat just to test their focus. Talk about dedication. You realize the calm mind is not about erasing thoughts, but observing them without judgment. Imagine watching clouds drift past rather than trying to catch them. As your mental storm calms, clarity blooms, revealing what you truly deserve, not what you think you want in the chaos, but the quiet truths beneath. You find yourself waiting, not the kind of waiting where your foot taps impatiently and your phone gets a workout from endless scrolling. No, this is a different kind of patience, one that hums quietly beneath your skin like a slow-burning candle. It's not weakness, it's strength in disguise. Patience, you learn tonight, is the gatekeeper to all rightful rewards. Remember how in the old days, travelers crossing the Silk Road didn't rush? They endured scorching deserts and treacherous mountains, understanding that haste would only bring ruin. In fact, Marco Polo's journeys took years, not days. Historians still argue whether Polo's accounts were fully accurate or embellished by his storytellers, but the lesson remains clear. Patience paved the way for discovery and fortune. On a quirkier note, some merchants supposedly used pigeon posts to communicate, relying on birds who clearly had better patience than most of us dealing with buffering YouTube videos today. You start to notice how patience changes your perception of time. Waiting is no longer a punishment, but a process, a silent forge where your character is shaped. Instead of jumping into every impulse or reaction, you pause, breathe, and allow situations to unfold. This pause opens space for better decisions, relationships, and ultimately, the life you deserve. In daily life, impatience fuels anxiety, like a car stuck in a traffic jam revving the engine. But when you lean into patience, that engine idles calmly, ready to move forward with grace. Like a tree growing roots deep beneath the soil before stretching tall, your steady waiting builds a foundation others might overlook. This foundation supports the real gains, the kind that don't vanish overnight or disappear with the next social media trend. So the next time you feel the urge to rush, remind yourself patience isn't passive. It's the quiet muscle flexing beneath your calm exterior, preparing you for the right moment when your efforts will finally bloom. You find yourself wrestling with control, don't you? It's that sneaky illusion whispering that if you just hold tighter, pull the strings harder, you'll fix everything: your schedule, your relationships, your stress levels, your life. But here's a twist: surrendering control isn't giving up. It's stepping into a wider space where unexpected blessings can sneak in. Think about the ancient Chinese philosophy of Taoism, which taught living in harmony with the Dao, the natural way of things. The legendary Lao Tzu famously said, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished." Historians still argue whether Lao Tzu was a real person or a mythic figure created to embody these ideas, but his teachings have shaped Eastern thought for centuries. And here's a quirky fact. Early Taoist monks sometimes practiced zhuoweng, or sitting and forgetting, deliberately letting go of even their own identities to merge with the flow. Imagine that as a version of unplugging from yourself. You realize that trying to control everything is like holding a handful of sand. The tighter you squeeze, the more slips through your fingers. When you release your grip, you let life flow naturally, and suddenly opportunities appear where none seemed possible. Surrendering doesn't mean laziness or passivity. It's an active choice to trust the process instead of micromanaging every outcome. In practice, this could mean letting go of expectations for a project at work or a relationship. When you stop forcing things to be a certain way, you create room for authentic connection and growth. Your anxiety lessens because you're no longer battling forces beyond your control. So tonight, practice a small surrender. Notice where you hold too tightly, and imagine loosening your grip, inviting in a little calm. That calm might just bring the blessings you've been too busy to see. You begin to see life's constant change not as a threat, but as a dance, sometimes slow, sometimes wild, but always moving forward. This impermanence is a cornerstone of Buddhist wisdom, a reality that frees you from clinging and suffering. Think back to the ancient Greeks who believed in the concept of panta rhei, everything flows. Heraclitus famously said, "You cannot step into the same river twice because the water is always changing." Historians still argue whether Heraclitus's philosophy was purely metaphorical or a literal description of the physical world. And on the quirky side, some river gods in mythology were thought to influence the very flow of waters, which is a poetic nod to the ever-changing nature of life itself. You realize that clinging to permanence is like trying to hold onto water with your bare hands. It slips away, leaving you frustrated. When you accept that everything changes the people around you, your feelings, your circumstances, you open the door to peace. Resistance fades and you can flow with life's currents instead of battling against them. This mindset shift affects how you handle loss, disappointment, and success. Instead of grasping desperately at what's gone or what might be, you learn to appreciate the moment as it is, knowing it will pass. This acceptance softens the edges of suffering and makes room for gratitude. Imagine your life as a riverboat navigating twists and turns. You don't control the river, but by adjusting your sails and steering skillfully, you can enjoy the journey. Embracing impermanence isn't resignation, it's wisdom that transforms fear into freedom. So, as you lie back tonight, feel the rhythm of change pulsing gently beneath everything and let yourself relax into the flow. You might think kindness is just a nice bonus, a sprinkle of sugar in a bitter world. But here's the truth. Kindness is a ripple, and those ripples come back to you in ways you'd never expect. You give a little, and the universe returns much more. Look at the story of Ashoka, the ancient Indian emperor who once waged brutal wars, but transformed into a champion of peace and kindness after embracing Buddhism. His reign spread compassion across the land, and many credit him for promoting ethical governance. Historians still argue whether Ashoka's conversion was political strategy or genuine spiritual awakening. On a quirky note, legend says he loved elephants so much that one of them became his close companion. Talk about an emotional support animal centuries ahead of time. You realize kindness doesn't have to be grand gestures. A smile to a stranger, a helping hand, a few words of encouragement. These small acts create ripples, often unseen, that return when you least expect. The energy you put out travels through networks of people, sometimes bouncing back in surprising ways. Science even supports this. Studies show that when you perform acts of kindness, your brain releases feel-good chemicals like oxytocin and serotonin, boosting your mood and reducing stress. It's like a secret wellness hack baked into human nature. So you start noticing opportunities to be kind in your daily life. The barista who seems overwhelmed, the coworker struggling with a deadline, even yourself when you're feeling down. Each act plants a seed that grows into a forest of goodwill. Tonight, as you breathe out, imagine those kindness ripples expanding beyond you, touching lives far and wide, and quietly returning to nourish your own. You're here now, anchored in the present, not the place where your mind races to tomorrow's worries or yesterday's regrets, but the calm, steady moment unfolding right before your eyes. Mindful presence is like a tether pulling you gently away from the chaos into a space where anxiety loses its grip. Remember the Zen masters of Japan who practiced zazen or seated meditation, often for hours on end. They believed that true enlightenment came from fully inhabiting the now, letting go of distractions and ego. Historians still argue whether Zen's emphasis on sudden enlightenment was truly spontaneous or a gradual process. On the quirky side, some monks reportedly developed koans, paradoxical riddles like, what is the sound of one hand clapping to jolt the mind out of its habitual thinking? Spoiler, the answer is less important than the experience. You notice how anchoring yourself in the present quiets the mind's endless chatter. When you savor the taste of your morning coffee or feel the texture of your clothes on your skin, you pull your scattered thoughts back to here and now. Anxiety shrinks because it feeds on what-ifs and should-haves, both of which exist nowhere but in time's shadows. This practice doesn't mean ignoring problems. Instead, it means facing them with a clear, calm mind rather than a frantic one. It's like having a flashlight in a dark room with mindfulness. You see clearly, make better choices, and move forward without tripping over your own fears. Tonight, bring your attention to the rhythm of your breath, the gentle rise and fall that anchors you. Let the present moment be your resting place, your refuge from the storm. You're balancing a tightrope between desire and detachment, like a circus performer who knows that leaning too far either way means a fall. Desire pulls you forward, the fire under your ambitions, while detachment keeps your feet steady when outcomes wobble out of your control. In ancient India, the Bhagavad Gita, an epic spiritual text, teaches this dance through Krishna's counsel to Arjuna. Act with full effort, but relinquish attachment to the fruits of your actions. Historians still argue whether the Gita was composed over centuries or emerged as a unified text. On a quirky note, some spiritual teachers interpret Krishna's advice as an early form of mindful productivity, a concept oddly resonant in today's hustle culture. You start noticing how craving success or fearing failure tightens your chest and clouds your mind. The secret isn't to abandon goals, but to pursue them with an open hand ready to release if things don't go as planned. This way, your happiness isn't hostage to circumstances. Detachment here is not apathy, it's freedom. Like a surfer riding waves without clinging to the ocean, you move with life's ebb and flow. Your effort remains strong, but you're not shattered if the wave crashes differently than hoped. Imagine waking up each day motivated, but calm, pushing your projects forward while embracing whatever comes. This balance transforms stress into grace, frustration into flow. Tonight, feel this dance inside you, desire fueling your passions, detachment grounding your heart, and let both coexist peacefully. You feel that fire rising inside anger, that old familiar blaze that can consume your peace if you're not careful. But here's the secret: anger doesn't have to be your enemy. With compassion, you can transform that fire into a gentle warmth that clears rather than burns. Think of the Buddhist teaching on the 4 Brahma Viharas, or divine abodes, which include compassion as a path to overcome negative emotions. Stories tell how he showed kindness even to those who opposed him. Historians still argue whether some tales are literal or symbolic lessons, but the power of compassion in calming anger remains a timeless truth. And here's a quirky detail some Buddhist monks trained with Tonglen Dasichi, a breathing meditation where you inhale others' suffering and exhale relief. Talk about emotional gymnastics. You realize anger often masks deeper pain or fear. When you respond with compassion to yourself or others, that fire softens. It's not about condoning harm, but understanding it, allowing you to act from a place of calm strength instead of reactive heat. In daily life, this means noticing when irritation bubbles up and pausing to breathe. Imagine replacing the urge to snap with a moment of empathy. Suddenly, the tension dissipates. Your relationships improve, and your inner world feels lighter. Tonight, when anger stirs, invite compassion to your side. Watch how it cools the flames and clears a path for peace. You begin to question who you really are beneath all the labels, roles, and stories you tell yourself. The illusion of self and ego, that familiar sense of I, is not as solid as it feels. What if the you cling to is just a shadow dancing on the wall? Buddhist philosophy centers on the concept of anatta, or no self, which challenges the idea of a permanent, unchanging identity. Historically, this teaching unsettled even early followers, sparking debates that continue among scholars today. Interestingly, some fringe theories suggest that the sense of self may be a neurological construct, a kind of brain-generated avatar, which opens fascinating doors in both science and spirituality. You notice how often you react based on ego-driven fears, wanting to protect your reputation, your opinions, your place in the world. But when you peek behind that curtain, you see a vast interconnected web where the boundaries between self and others blur. This realization doesn't erase your uniqueness, but invites humility and openness. You start to live less defensively, more freely. The ego's tight grip loosens, and you find peace in simply being. Tonight, try to observe your sense of self as if from a distance, like watching a character in a play. Notice the parts that feel constructed and the space beyond them where true calm resides. You've reached a quiet realization. Joy doesn't need to be loud or extravagant. In fact, the more you seek it in grand gestures, the more elusive it becomes. True joy resides in the simple everyday moments, the ones you often overlook while chasing after the next big thing. Consider the teachings of the Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh, who emphasized interbeing. The idea that every small act, like drinking a cup of tea or washing dishes, is an opportunity for mindfulness and happiness. Historians still argue whether his philosophy represents a modern interpretation of traditional Zen or a unique evolution of its teachings. On the quirky side, Thich Nhat Hanh once said that we should smile at the trees as if they could smile back. It's a gentle, poetic reminder to find joy in the present, even in the smallest things. You begin to see how joy is right under your nose in the warm sunlight, filtering through your window, in the laughter of a friend, in the rhythm of your breath. These moments, though fleeting, hold more lasting happiness than the pursuit of endless possessions or achievements. You realize that when you release the pressure to get happy and instead allow joy to unfold naturally, it fills you more deeply. Like walking through a garden, joy grows quietly without force or expectation. And when you pause to admire the flowers, you discover that the journey itself is just as fulfilling as the destination. Tonight, let joy find you in the ordinary. Notice it in the small things and let it wash over you like a gentle breeze. You sink into silence, the kind that isn't empty but full rich with unspoken truths and deep insights. Silence speaks louder than words tonight, revealing what your busy mind often drowns out in noise. Think of the monastic silence practiced by various traditions, from Christian monasteries to Buddhist retreats where speech is minimized to foster inner reflection. Historically, the Desert Fathers in early Christianity took vows of silence to cultivate spiritual depth. Scholars still argue how much silence contributed to their mystical experiences versus structured prayer. On a quirky note, some monks reportedly communicated through elaborate hand gestures or even smoke signals, proving silence doesn't mean isolation. In silence, you find space. The clatter of daily life fades, and the stillness holds a mirror to your inner self. Without distractions, your thoughts settle like sediment in clear water, revealing clarity. You notice how silence isn't a void, but a container for presence and understanding. It teaches patience, deep listening, and receptivity. When you practice silence, you open to wisdom that chatter obscures. Tonight, embrace silence not as loneliness, but as your ally. Let the quiet envelop you and invite the insights waiting beneath the surface. You begin to trust the unfolding journey, even when the path ahead is shrouded in fog. Trust isn't blind faith, but a steady confidence in life's mysterious flow, a quiet assurance that you're moving exactly where you need to be. Recall the story of the Silk Road merchants who journeyed through deserts and mountains with no GPS, relying on stars, local guides, and sometimes just sheer hope. Historians still argue whether their success was due more to careful planning or sheer luck and resilience. A quirky fact: some traders carried lucky charms, tiny sculptures or coins, believing they could influence fate, a blend of faith and pragmatism. You notice how surrendering to the unknown reduces the grip of anxiety. Instead of fighting every twist and turn, you relax into the ride, knowing detours often lead to unexpected treasures. This trust doesn't mean passivity. It means acting with awareness and courage, then releasing the need to control outcomes. Like a river flowing around rocks, you adapt and keep moving. Tonight, as you breathe deeply, invite trust to be your companion. Let it ease your fears and open your heart to whatever comes next. You discover strength in vulnerability. The paradoxical truth that opening your heart doesn't make you weak, but profoundly courageous. Letting down your guard allows authentic connection and growth that walls can never provide. Consider the medieval knights who armored themselves for battle, but also valued chivalry, acts of kindness and openness amidst conflict. Historians still argue how much vulnerability played a role in their culture versus strict codes of honor. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some knights carried small tokens from loved ones inside their armor, a secret softness beneath the steel. You realize that vulnerability means risking rejection, failure, or hurt. Yet it's the gateway to true intimacy and self-discovery. When you share your authentic self, you invite others to do the same, creating bonds that strengthen resilience. In your daily life, this might mean expressing your feelings honestly or admitting when you need help. Though uncomfortable at first, these moments dissolve isolation and foster compassion. Tonight, allow yourself to feel vulnerable. See it as a brave step toward deeper connection and inner strength, a quiet revolution of the heart. You find equanimity in chaos, that rare stillness that comes not from avoiding life's storms, but from being unshaken within them. Equanimity doesn't mean being emotionless or detached. It means holding a calm center, no matter how wild the world around you becomes. Take, for example, the samurai warriors of feudal Japan, whose training was as much mental as physical. Their discipline and meditation, even amidst the chaos of battle, allowed them to stay focused and centered. Historians still argue whether this mental training was as crucial as their swordsmanship. A quirky fact: some samurai even practiced calligraphy to sharpen their focus, believing that each stroke reflected the mind's clarity. You begin to notice how external chaos doesn't need to disturb your inner calm. When you react with equanimity, the noise of the world fades into the background, and you can act with purpose and clarity. This doesn't mean ignoring emotions, but embracing them without being swept away. In your daily life, this means facing stressful situations, whether at work or in relationships, with a steady heart and mind. Like a calm eye in the center of a hurricane, you remain composed, able to navigate through turbulence with grace. Tonight, picture yourself as the calm center of a storm, unmoved by the winds swirling around you. Feel how peace is not a passive state, but a strong, unshakable foundation within. You come full circle, realizing that you truly reap what you sow. Your calm, steady efforts are seeds planted in the soil of life, destined to grow into the harvest you deserve. Patience, kindness, presence. They all contribute to the garden you cultivate within and around you. Look to the ancient agricultural societies. that understood this deeply. Farmers relied on seasonal rhythms, knowing that rushing the harvest would only spoil the crop. Historians still argue whether early irrigation techniques spread through innovation or cultural exchange. On a quirky note, some early farmers believed singing to their crops improved growth, maybe a primitive form of positive intention. You understand that your inner calm is like fertile ground. When you nurture it consistently, it supports flourishing in all areas: relationships, work, health, and happiness. The world may not reward you instantly, but your steady care sets the stage for genuine, lasting fulfillment. In your daily life, this means honoring the small, consistent acts, meditation, patience, compassion that might feel invisible now, but build the foundation for your future self. The calm you cultivate today is the life you will live tomorrow. Tonight, breathe deeply and trust this process. Your calm is your power, and through it, you will receive exactly what you deserve.